Hi, good night. It's once again such a pleasure to join all our viewers in Trinidad and Tobago and those who are watching us on the internet. And so we're international, by the way. We want to welcome you all back to our show, and as normal, as usual, we have a wonderful show prepared for you all. This year, we talk about regenerating spiritual and moral values, and our theme for the year, we will go through what it is to regenerate these moral and spiritual values. What we think is wonderful about this theme is that it's so practical and so, I want to use the word easy, but when we go through with you what it is about, you will understand how your very simple actions, daily actions, could really help you regenerate moral and spiritual values in your life and by extension the community. So today's show, what we will do, we went and we met Natasha, a beautiful family in Diego Martin, and again we want to thank them for being part of our show and really sharing with the wider public what this whole Synod priority is about. So thanks to the Taylor family. We spoke with everyone there. That's mother, father, and 2 children. And they gave us a wonderful perspective on what they felt regenerating moral and spiritual values was all about. And what we want to do in this show and shows coming is to really go through the different perspectives from our point of view, what we think it is. And then we will share with you as well what the clergy thinks it should be. So when we marry those 2 perspectives together, hopefully we can come up with some sort of plan and action to really make this a reality in Trinidad and Tobago, and really build a better civilization at the end of the day. We want to go through, as I said, we'll show you clips of the family, and this show, we want to take it a little step further. We want to invite calls from the beginning of the show. So we want to hear your perspective. Consider yourselves the man on the street. We want to get into your homes, except would not be physically there with a camera, but your voice will be on this show, and that way your family and your views will be able to be aired, and hence we could respond, and callers could call in and respond to that. So the conversation is not just between Natasha and myself and the Taylor family, because that's who we're going to present to you, but it will really be a conversation from your home to TCN and back out. So we want to really have a proper conversation tonight. We want to hear all the views. We want people, all our families we've interviewed from Tabaquite, in Tobago, Diego Martin, Arima. We've been everywhere, and we hope that you all are looking on, and we want you all to call in today and really be with us on air. And let me just send that number out to you, because I'm certain it's on your TV, but just in case, call 627-5268. And I'll repeat that again, 627-5268. And for those of you watching online, maybe you can go to the AFLC's Facebook page and we could pick up questions from there. Not this show, unfortunately. We're not so high-tech just yet. But we'll pick up questions from them. Maybe we can address them on the next show. So don't feel left out. Still go on. Post how you feel. And we will pick up those questions next show. And we will address as best as we can on that topic. So, again, we have a wonderful show for you. You're going to meet the Taylor family. And we are inviting calls from now so that please feel free, spread the word. This is the first time we're doing it. We open it up from the start of the show to take calls. So, Natasha.
Right, Lorraine, I just want to say welcome back and thank you. It's lovely to be here as usual. We really enjoy this whole process. We enjoy being here. We enjoy looking and meeting the families. And you may wonder where we get this theme from, regenerating moral and spiritual values. Well, throw your mind back to a good few years, 2009. We met at Center of Excellence. We met in Synod as a Catholic church. And instead of just a selected few, the Archbishop at that time, Archbishop Gilbert, opened it up to, it was hundreds of us, thousands of us, to air our views and to, by consensus, come up with what is going to guide the church, almost like how you say it in corporate world, a strategic plan, a strat plan. It was the strat plan for our church. So if you remember, this whole thing came from the mission statement. I'm going to read it for you. We are the people of God in Trinidad and Tobago, building the civilization of love, reconciliation with God, neighbor, creation, and self through 1, the new evangelization, tell me if this sounds familiar, 2, revitalizing Catholic culture and identity, and 3, regenerating the moral and spiritual values of our society. So you see how the church has had a plan since 2009 to now. The first thing which we explored here, new evangelization, and if you remember last year, we explored revitalizing Catholic culture and identity, what that meant, a myriad of topics and families and themes, and now regenerating moral and spiritual values of our society. So it's in that context that we are going to present our show for you this year. Okay, so it is, we had a lot of resolutions. I'm going to just, you should have gone through, I'm not going to read out all the resolutions. In your church, in your parish, you would have gone through. But is that each Catholic, this is just the umbrella statement for revitalizing morals and spiritual values of our society, from which all the resolutions flow. That each Catholic, as a committed disciple of Christ, knows, lives, and witnesses to the rich moral teaching of the church and actively partners with people of goodwill towards the moral and spiritual renewal of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, if we have that, we have seen what happened at the end of last year. You know, fathers killing children and husbands killing wives, and it's just madness. So if we do this, if we focus, if we stop blaming other people and focus on what the Archbishop or the church is asking us to focus on in this year, we will build a better Trinidad and Tobago, and we will build a civilization of love. So we want to go straight to our first clip. We don't want to waste any more time, right? I think we've set the backdrop nice for you. We've said what the show is, and we've explored what exactly the theme is. So let's go to our first clip. This is going to be Earl Taylor, the head of this Taylor household. They live in Diego Martin, Diamond Vale, and they really opened up to us. So let's see what he says are moral and spiritual values.
I would like to see more people praying the rosary in particular, right, daily, because it is said that family that prays together stays together. If families could continue to pray the rosary every day, I think that would be a step in the right direction. Those people who, particularly who are retired like ourselves, my wife and I, we make the effort to go to church every day. And I think it starts the day well. I think they rarely have bad examples set. And our adults are blamable. The effects on your life, it's damaging over a period of time. They do not explain that to the young people, but some of them know, but yet still they do it. They just follow the crowd, follow the bad company, get in the wrong group, get in the wrong peer group, and probably pressures at home drive them to do this as well. Quarrels, probably broken homes, one-parent families, and the like. Because most of them are in there for being uncontrollable. They like to use this word. I was uncontrollable. You're talking about 7, 8 years, 9, 10, 11-year-olds coming in. So what we do is we try to, as they are in there, we try our very best. Like I would start with a prayer, or will ask them to pray, and then some of them say, well, so I don't pray, you know. So then I would say, do you believe in God? Do you believe in the Almighty? Yes, but I just don't pray. So sometimes I might end up saying the prayer for them.
So we want to thank Earl, and Earl made some really good points there, and I'm just going to try and pull everything together. Natasha spoke about all the synod priorities really address in building a better civilization. And really that's what Earl is talking about. Really doing small things in your life, in your family unit, to really help build that civilization. He speaks about praying as a family, praying the rosary, so that again, that spiritual value is instilled in you, so that it affects in a positive way your morality. And that's where we go in with this priority. Now, he speaks about children 7 years old, uncontrollable. And that may sound weird to you because you're probably sitting down at home saying, 7 years, uncontrollable, you're crazy. Not in my house. But, and I'll just refer to some, we'll talk about it later, but some things like my church in Santa Rosa has done, and one of the banners that they've put up is spend a quality time with your children. It's not so much, I always say it, I believe it, children are not born bad. It's the environment. And he says it goes back to their parents, it goes back to traditions, which we are going to address. If those traditions are not there, then we are going to have a society that lacks spirituality and is filled with moral decadence. And I'm going to go to a teaching that he's now the Archbishop, but in 2009, he wrote a teaching, and he was then Father Joseph Harris. And he speaks of the splendor of truth, which addresses this priority, regenerating moral and spiritual values. And he says, splendor of truth, Pope John Paul II reminds us that Christian morality has its roots in the imitation of Christ. The then Pope writes, following Christ is the essential and primordial foundation of Christian morality, and following him holds fast to the very person of Jesus. It means becoming conformed to him, who became a servant even to giving himself on the cross. And to summarize all of that theological, what we may sometimes call banter, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but sometimes the words go in and we say, oh God, that's just too heavy for me, you know. What it really means is live your life in the imitation of Jesus. Love one another as God has loved you. And that's what it comes down to. Do not do unto others. The simple actions that you do on a daily living. Somebody, you're a doctor. Somebody has HIV. You treat that person. You're a teacher. Somebody does not have the means to afford lessons. You allow that, you know, you love each other as God has loved you. You go out of your way to really try and live out the commandments of Jesus. And that's just the first step in really regenerating, because remember, that's what we're about. We're not saying that it's lost. We're not saying that it was never here. We're saying that the seed was planted, but we need to refertilize. We need to really massage the soil. We need to massage that muscle and regenerate in our people today spiritual and moral values. And as we talk about that, what we can do is go to the next clip. Because the next clip again speaks about how Anne, the mother of the household, really as mother, took her time to inculcate in her two young kids that spirit of Jesus in the home. And what she did was really work with her children in her own little way to plant that seed so that they can then go out and spread the good news. So now we'll go to Anne, who gives her perspective on how in her way, as the mother of the household, a working mother, helped her children along the path of spiritual and moral awareness, so that as grown-ups they can actually assist in the regenerating of spiritual and moral values. So let's hear what Anne has to say.
We raised them, first of all, from babies. We took them to church every Sunday, and we still do. They still go with us. Well, my younger daughter, she's married, but she and her husband, they go. And what I do, I normally check. I said, so did you go to mass? What mass did you go to? You know, and we did, what I did actually, is everything that we did as a family, right? We took them to church as a family, work in the church as a family, everything as a family. So they sort of grew with it. So even now that my elder daughter, she has gone on, she's now president of SVP. My other daughter, even though she's married, she was elected because when she got married, we told her, get involved in your parish, because she left our parish to a new parish. We made sure that she got involved in a parish. So that will go on. One day they happen to have children, that they would instill it into their children also, because it was instilled into me from my parents. My father, he was a teacher, and he just didn't make joke with those type of things. And even like when it is your birthday or something like that, we go out together and have a meal as a family. And I remember when they were small and they were going to Mucurapo Girls, what Sister Jerome said to us as parents, she said, always make your children feel wanted. So always do something for them on their birthday. So we always had either a party, we had, their friends coming together and we celebrate their birthdays. And we still do it, even though they have grown. We still do it. We come together, we say a prayer together before we start the meal, and it is something so enriching for a family. And I think if there's that breakdown in family life and all little things like that, I think if things like that happen, we wouldn't have so much crime, so much hate, so much, because there's love is shared in just that simple meal, everybody coming together and eating together and everything. And I remember when I was younger, all my brothers and sisters, all of us, we used to eat together and we had so much jokes together. We used to laugh and talk, and my parents used to give us stories of a long time and, all this sort of thing. So we have grown with that and we brought it on with our children, So I think, and we try to instill it into our youth group that we are coordinating. When I'm talking with them and when I'm having meetings with them, I try to tell them, well, we try to create that mother, father, children, how I say it, that union, to make them feel that, that this is what it should be like. And this is what makes a family grow and makes a family stay together.
Well, I just want to thank Anne for that, and the same excerpt that Lorraine brought to our attention a little while ago by Father Harris, as he then was, in the section Witness to Life, and it comes out so poignantly in what Anne says. It's that intergenerational aspect of this thing, generation after generation after generation. Tradition, she uses that word, passing it on. What she got, what she absorbed in her family life growing up from her father, the teasing with her sisters and brothers around the table, she passes on to her children. And then later we'll see that the children pass it on to their families now as they branch off to make their own families. And this is what Father Harris, the Archbishop now, was saying in his talk, remaining in his teaching, remaining faithful to Christian principles. And that is what we are called to do. He says we're called to be signs of hope. Now, how are we signs of hope? Because you can't do your thing. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a tub. We're called to be signs of hope, right? A church built, a city built on a hilltop, right? You light a lamp to shine and to dispel the darkness. And this is what he talks about, signs of hope. So when you go out to have a meal, you make the sign of the cross and you pray. And you wouldn't believe it might touch the heart of somebody there, you know? So we remind you all to keep calling. Keep being part of the conversation. It's 627-5268, and I believe we have a caller. So let's go to our call. Good night, caller.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Natasha and Lorraine. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I just want to tell you that, I'm listening to the program, and it really is resonating with me because just this weekend, my husband and I, we called a family meeting. We have 5 kids, so we brought them all in the bedroom, and we thought, okay, it's a new year, and everybody's making resolutions in so many areas of their lives. Let's make some spiritual resolutions. So we decided to throw out to the family the need to develop a spiritual plan. And part of that would be making time 2 days a week for us to get together as a family to pray. And it's so easy. As parents, we typically take the leading role. And we thought, well, let's throw it out and see which of the children would be eager to start off. And it was my 4-year-old who put his hand up in the air and said he would take responsibility for the first day. We didn't feel he could do it on his own, so he got a partner, and my 10-year-old said that she would work with him. And as I thought, reflecting on that and what you all were sharing here, regenerating and revitalizing our spiritual and moral values starts at, you don't have to be a big hardback adult, as we like to say in Trinidad sometimes, for that to happen.
Yes.
But from the small ones, if you inculcate those values from the early childhood, they will grow with them and they will stay with them throughout their lives. So
Yes.
there was my 4-year-old putting his hand up to say yes, and the 10-year-old saying, I'll back you up. And she came into the room tonight and said, Mommy, we know what we're doing. And they're so excited. So I believe it's sometimes it's in the little things, it's the little seeds that you sow that would cause this big tree of holiness to be developed and to take root in their hearts. And I
Thank
think
you so much.
the call is for us to be imitators of Christ in everything
Yes,
we do. I think
exactly. That
that's how
is
we
exactly
can
it.
regenerate our spiritual and moral values.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. And that is exactly what Father Harris says. He says it is a call on us to imitation, because children imitate what they see. So if we show them the spiritual and moral side of things, then they will imitate that and pass it on to their children. So thank you so very much for that. He says as well, before we go to the next clip, that witness must be followed by catechesis. And that teaching now is that family is going to be taught by the 4-year-old and the 10-year-old.
That's right,
You know, whoever does the teaching, but what you witness out, it must be followed by catechesis. So thank you so very much for that. Now we're going to go on with another clip. And this is one of the children, the younger child of this family, the Taylor family, Camille. And the strange thing is, she says, I know your face. I say, oh. And then she says, your mom taught me in St. Francois, so she remembered me from way back then. So to all the St. Francois people looking at us, we say good night.
Just about 5 years ago, Natasha.
Oh yes, about 2 years ago we were in school. So let's see what Camille has to say, how she how she absorbed what her mom and dad were telling her, and how she now passes it on to her new family.
From young, well, as Mommy said, we used to pray together, eat together, like do the Advent prayer together at Christmas, that kind of thing. We were also very involved in the church from quite young. So like I used to teach confirmation, assist with teaching confirmation, and then I started to read in church. So to me, it just became natural to be involved in the church. I was involved in the youth group as well. At that point in time, everybody was involved in the youth group, so it was like over 100 people. which dwindled after a while. But for that period of time, and you're talking teenage years, I was very, very involved in the church. Of course, when you grow older, and then, you know, there are things like parties come up and that kind of thing, you know, involvement gets less and less, and then you have classes, different things, you know, begin to take up your time. But you always know that there are certain things that you have to do. One of the things with the Catholic Church is that you have a lot of options for masses. So even though I may not have been able to go to Saturday Mass every Saturday at 6 p.m. with the rest of the family, I would go when I had to read one, and then bet your bottom dollar I would find another Mass to go to if it is that I couldn't make Saturday evening. We have a lot of options as Catholics, and you know, it's something that some people, you know, they miss Mass and it's like, oh well, I didn't make it to Mass because, you know, I was here or I was there. But as she said, wherever we are in the world, we try to find the Mass. We have a lot of options as Catholics, and you know, it's something that some people, you know, they miss Mass and it's like, oh well, I didn't make it to Mass because, you know, I was here or I was there. But as she said, wherever we are in the world, we try to find the Mass. It's one of the things that we do. Well, for me, I would find the church as soon as I get to whatever location I am, and find out what time Mass is. You know, there are certain things that you have to do it. That's just what it is. These are the things that I would take with me for my family. Well, I've been married for eight years now, and it's been a challenge. You know, and I mean, it's values that I have become accustomed to, and then you realize that you're now part of another family, and the next family isn't necessarily accustomed to all of these things that we do. So now it's a new era where you teach that whole next family, hey, it's a birthday, you know, let's get together, let's eat a meal, you know, the things that I think that are now natural for me are things that I will now, you know, carry on with my family.
And once again, we want to thank Camille for her views and her perspectives, and it ties in so well with what Father Joe Harris said, together with what our caller said. And the tie-in is that we'll start with what Camille is saying. She speaks about how the traditions her mother set off for her when she was younger, she has now and is presently passing on to her family. And we'll speak to the challenges she has encountered in that. It also speaks to the fact that if you were taught that in your formative years, you will, as you grow, be capable of regenerating that moral and spiritual value. And it speaks to what the caller is saying, because her young 4-year-old had seen what his parents is doing, and now wants to be part of that regeneration, because the seed is planted at 4 years old. So don't think that it can't be done from a babe. It can be done from a babe because they are imitators. They are like sponges. They absorb what they see. And it's necessary to recognize that, because you're never too young to learn. She speaks of the challenges in terms of, now she's filled with all these ways and all these habits. She calls it this habitual way, which is what Father Joe Harris referred to in his teaching. It becomes a habitual way. However, now that habitual way, she's now finding, and she has to find, which she speaks to in his teaching on catechism, that you have to find creative ways now to bring that to life. And that's what she's doing, trying to find creative ways to bring that to life. Before I go on and we talk a little more of the challenges, we have a caller online. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Again, once again, fabulous show.
Thank you.
Insight with the family. I just want to share something on regenerating spiritual values. Now, my mom, it's amazing, huh? My mom was awaiting an annulment, kind of thing. They didn't even know it existed. But she was not in a state of grace to receive communion. Did that interfere with her bringing us up every week? We used to walk in those days to church and come back every single Sunday. So for the people out there who are not in right communion with the church, let's put it that way, still, basically you keep, and then Mom used to say, spiritual communion. Lord, I can't receive you now, but come to me physically, spiritually, and so. And do you know, in one of the Lenten retreats, she then heard about annulments, and then she applied it. Of course, she was one of the first to get it in Trinidad. So I want to thank God for that. So even though you can't, your duty is to lead your children to Christ, and she did that in a marvelous way. So I really want to thank you, and hope it helps a little for those out there who are probably in similar situations. Bye, darlings, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. And again, we want to thank, because the perspectives are so important. And, Camille spoke to it. The Catholic Church really gives us options. I know for sure in Orima, we have Mass on Saturday. We have about 3 Masses on Sunday. Plus, together, we have in all our parishes. So even if you didn't make it to Orima proper, there's in Santa Rosa Heights, there's in Malabar, there are plenty options for Mass. So it's there, it's available, and we really have to try and use it. Try and attend Mass, and try and really, I grew up in a household where, as Camille said, you didn't even think about it. You just had to go. And if we didn't, which occurred very rarely, my grandmother will want to find out, why didn't you go? And you better had a good reason why you didn't go, She speaks about as well, and this is the challenges, of course, growing up, you will have, and maybe a caller who's going through something like this could speak to it. You go through that stage of what we will call partying. But I always say nothing is wrong with partying. What is wrong is what you do in the parties, right? And you have to surround yourself with people who share your same values and your support system, so that party is not a bad thing per se. And you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be able to witness in that party, and we spoke about it, imitate Jesus, so that your value system, and you could be that source of light that can change what may be termed a bad thing to a good thing. And again, it speaks to regenerating that moral and spiritual value. Now, I'm not saying to go and throw yourself in something that is really decadent and hope to be the salvation of it. You have to do these things smart. I always say it's better not just to work hard, but to work smart. And we have to rely on not just God, but other people to really work with us to help this regeneration take place. And again, we go back to the traditions that you lay out in your family, the seeds that you plant, so that as grown individuals now, we can pass on by our simple actions of going to church. I mean, children may not understand, but they know they have to get up every Sunday morning at 7.
They will understand later.
Yes, and go to church. And by that time, it's in them. And because they see what's happening in church, and they see you commune after Mass, after service, and talk to this one and shake hands, they learn subconsciously the act of family life. And, this is what the show is about. And everything that family speaks to. Simple things. She said she was accustomed celebrating her birthday. And when she married, that was not present in the other family. So she's now passing on and trying to teach and witness to that aspect of it. And it's difficult for her because this is like normal. She's accustomed sitting down around the table and having a meal together as a family. She's not accustomed that you come in at 6 and you eat at 6 and you come in at 4 and you eat at 4. No, everybody comes in. When the last person comes in, we sit as a family, we pray as a family. The first caller alluded to the fact that they have as a company has a strategic plan. they have a spiritual plan for their family. And they could afford to meet 2 days a week and pray as a family, and everybody has a duty in that. It's not complicated. It's very simple. We have it there. There is hope, and we just have to find and be creative in the ways that we bring out, the ways that we will regenerate this moral and spiritual value. And speaking to that, we want to go to Angelique. That's the last daughter. And Angelique, beautiful person. And again, we see the wonderful ways and traditions of the father and the mother being and coming out in the lives of their 2 children. So before I go on to talk more about Angelique, let's just hear what Angelique has to say about this whole topic of regenerating moral and spiritual values.
I want to publicly thank my parents. My parents worked very hard in church, and it is a natural progression for me to be instilled with that kind of value, to give back to God. You know, at the end of Mass, the priest always says, go out to love and serve one another. And that is exactly what I have tried to do in my life. At a very young age, growing up with my parents, persons would come to the door. They'd have street people coming to the door for a meal, and we were taught to use compassion, patience, to be able to give what you have prepared from your own kitchen. Put together something really quickly because they don't like to wait, and that's okay. And you sometimes you chat with them, try to appreciate where they're coming from in life, what has transpired, what has gotten them to that place. I've taken it a step further in my life. After university, I became a part of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, and they made me the youth coordinator in 2002. And I put together a team of people, a team of young people, and we, together with the national executive, we went out, and the aim and the objective of that team was to bring in other young people. So the same sort of values that I would have learned here in terms of sharing a meal at retreats, we would all sit around the table, and again, I want to share a similar sentiment what Mother said in terms of then being foreign to that sort of tradition, that sort of behavior, and to see their eyes light up, and for them to feel comfortable with one another is what we truly hope to try to teach them and try to extract from them, because if it is that they need to work with one another, they need to have that fellowship with one another. So when we go to retreats, the same thing would apply. You learn whatever you learn in the kitchen from whatever Mommy would have taught. I would teach them, because again, you get young people who are not accustomed cooking, who are not accustomed making up their bed, not accustomed cleaning up after. They expect once they throw something on the ground that somebody else will pick it up. So all these different types of values you inculcate into the young people, and it has been a joy. Growing up with Daddy teaching at Dinger Martin Junior Sec, which is now North Secondary, I always said to myself, I do not want to teach any young person, because I'm seeing my father coming home stressed, teaching these children. And I said, I'm never going to join any youth ministry. And as God has it, because He knows what He has created, He fashioned it into the mind of the parish priest, the then parish priest at the time. Angelique, I wanted to become the parish youth coordinator, and I wanted to help revive the youth ministry in the parish. After the disciples group, which my sister was a part of, youth ministry died, and they were trying to coming out of the synod. It was one of the resolutions, and the previous person had a little difficulty, but I was able to go in and help out because of the ground that I would have already had, in the society, being youth coordinator there, I was able to bring back youth ministry, bring it back up to what it is now. So that the same teachings and groundings that I would have had from the family at home, I was able to bring it to other young people to help them, and hopefully those that at the youth ministry level, I started a group of young people, training them to become leaders, so that I always try to stress that I'm not going to be here forever and you would have to replace me. Learning how to form that relationship with God, because we talk about regenerating spiritual values, and for me that means getting closer to God. Getting closer to God means to be able to bring to Him your joys, your sorrows. It's more than a friend, He's a father.
Well, Angelique, we thank you very much. Angelique was so, she had so much to say about all her work in the church and all of that. And I go back to Father Joe's teaching, again, as we have been really teasing out and breaking open tonight. He says there's a commandment to love as Christ loved. That's what this whole thing is about. And didn't she say that? She said about loving and serving. And that's exactly what he talks about in his teaching, that this culture in which we live makes self paramount. It's all about me and me and me. And I want to say, our Catholics, we are guilty of that as well. We blame the government, we blame the other religions, we blame them so-and-sos, and them so-and-sos, and these and those and those. So what are we doing? What are we doing? I'm sure in each parish there is a St. Vincent de Paul Society, that actively goes out and interfaces with the poor, with the needy, and needy not just in terms of physical need, but then simple things, just somebody to sit down and talk with them, somebody to just watch a child with them while they just take 1 second for themselves, whatever they want to do, they just want to sit down and stare, that's fine. She talks about that. Angelique talks about that. She said her home was a home where strangers would come and they would be hurried. And she says, and that's okay. They can be what they are and they would have been welcome. I remember our home too, up to now, we have people come and ring the bell, they want water, they want a phone call, they want this, they want that. But we live next to the police station, so that could also, I can also account for that. But it's up to love as Christ loved, and it's not easy, because our last caller, before we go to this call, our last caller talked about that. It wasn't easy, it could not have been easy for her mother, but the mother was preparing her own heart without even knowing what she was preparing her heart for, and then God planted what she was preparing her heart for, So God is good, and we have that duty to lead our charges to Christ, to love as He loved us. It's a new commandment. Caller, good night.
Yeah, good night. I just want to make a small contribution, or more a congratulation on Earl Taylor. I've known Earl Taylor for a very long time. In fact, we were altar boys in our RC church. He may not remember me, but I remember him very well. And even his wife, I don't think at the time they had any children. In fact, I don't even think at the time they were married. So I just want to tell him congratulations on his family and his children, and for keeping the family together, and wish him all the best after all.
That is wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful?
And
Go ahead.
Yeah, and part of what because again, we're limited with the time frame of this show. And when we speak to these families, they tell us so much about their lives. And one of the things that Earl does, he said he was retired, but Earl, as a teacher, has decided to go back. And he's now working at St. Michael's Home. And he's given back, and he's really working with these children. He says he teaches them how to pray. Some of them don't know how to pray. He says, no. Before we start this task, let's sit down and let's say a prayer. And again, in his simple ways, he's witnessing.
Yes.
He's imitating Jesus.
Right.
And he's showing these children who may be called misguided individuals that nothing is wrong with you. It's just that you were not taught how to do these things. I am here now, I am present,
Yes.
and I will teach you. And it's such an important important point to make, that our simple stories are what we have to use to evangelize. And we spoke to that in the last Synod priority, to evangelize, because we all walk in stories. All 6 billion
and that,
of
you know,
us.
what that caller is saying is so touching, because and this is what we say all the time, and that's why we love to go to the families, because we don't know which heart, whose heart is going to be touched by whatever aspect of the show. So that's why it gives us joy to come here and do the show, to go into the family home, to sit with them, laugh with them, eat with them, talk with them, you know, tease them a little bit, and it really does give us joy, and it obviously touches hearts out there. Look, he knew Earl, isn't that something?
And that's
that is wonderful.
Before he was married, and Earl is
wonderful.
retired now. That's to tell you how long Earl has been witnessing and imitating the life of Jesus.
And something else Father Harris had said in his teaching, this witness is not to be a drudgery.
That's right.
You know, a lot of Catholics, and I'm not saying that any of us is perfect, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he's calling us in his teaching to joyful witness. A lot of us say, oh God, it's the same people doing things over and over again. I have parish council meeting tonight, and I have, you know, something's wrong there. The joy of your witness is out. The joy of your service is not there. And therefore you might have to take a check, you know, a little read of what it is the church is calling us to. And it's about that same thing, regenerating. What Lorraine said and what we've been discussing here tonight is starting it back, lighting a fire back under. You know, when you're cooking and you're saying a smelling gas, when you check the fire out from the stove, nothing is happening in the pot. You have to strike another match and light back the stove for the pot to bubble and for your end to be achieved, or else nothing is going to happen. It's going to stay just there. So it's about that lighting a fire. And if you don't find joy in your service, perhaps the Lord is calling you to a different ministry in the church. And if you read the resolutions, we're calling you here tonight to get a copy of the official documents of the third sitting of the Synod. Read Father Harris's teaching on regenerating moral and spiritual values. Perhaps use that as your family's basis for doing what our first caller said and having a spiritual plan for your family. Take one thing out of it. Perhaps what Earl was saying, say the rosary. You know, if you can say a decade, start with that. It doesn't matter. Look at the second caller. That family situation was not perfect. It wasn't the father and mother and children going to church, but they worked with what they had. So work with the time you have, work with the family you have. Some families are not even related. It's a neighbor bringing up a child. And that's the only mother the child knows since the child has been born. It's okay. You work with what you have, you know?
You know, again, we go back to the different stories that we have encountered along the way. And every family that we have encountered has done things in very small ways in their humble homes. They have fed communities. You know, they have taken what we consider as nothing and really spread the joy of Jesus in their community. And again, it is, I remember when we interviewed Zena said it's not about any grand thing. It's about sometimes calling somebody and say, are you okay?
Yes, I didn't see you.
Yes, I didn't see you. Do you have milk? And the person may say, well, you know, I have no groceries. She says, you know what? Let me buy you some whatever it is. Sometimes she said it was just a hug.
Look, when we
Just
interviewed Andrea said, you know, she was struggling with some little babies and she just needed somebody from the parish to say, can I help you with those children? She had this crying one and that one, and she
Baby
stopped
bag
coming to
and
church.
one, yeah.
It was just too much for her, physically.
So again, it's the little things. And again, Father Harris speaks about living in harmony. He speaks, and throughout this, his whole teaching, his message really is, and that's what it comes down to, bringing back God's love in our home. Because if we do it home by home, at the end of the day, we're going to build a better civilization.
Yes. And this resolution number 2 talks about formation of families as the domestic church. And people forget that that's where the first catechesis is supposed to happen, in the home.
And it's not about, as Natasha said, this blame game. It's not about the blame game. It's really about acknowledging what you have and working with it. What we're looking at is in each of our parishes, and I'm certain Natasha can speak to it, we have to, like my church right now, and that's Santa Rosa Heights of Rima, they've actually put up little banners in the church, and one is bring back God's love in our home. The other one is spend quality time with your children. And if you sit in your church, simple things like don't wait for your parish priest to say do X, Y, and Z, you know.
We have I choose to care.
Right.
And there's an acronym for care.
Right.
You know.
So, you know, if you see in those things, Father, in my case, Vento do have to sit down and give a teaching on bringing back God into your home. He doesn't need to give a teaching on spending quality time with your children. All you know you have to do is, when your children come home from school or whatever time it is, I mean, the first caller had to actually put aside time. So if it is that you have to put aside 5 minutes, well, then it's 5 minutes of your time. So we really had a wonderful teaching today, and we want to thank everyone for coming, for speaking with us, and for really sharing their views and perspectives on family and what they think regenerating moral and spiritual values from.
Yeah. Before we close, I want to say, you know, I really want to thank the callers. I want to thank the callers because they're watching and they're speaking about it.
That's
you know,
right.
Everywhere I go in the church, they say, I have an idea for that show. Or I have been talking to somebody about that show. Or when you all did this. So I just want to encourage the viewers, tell a friend about the show, and let's get the conversation going so that the regeneration can start, you know.
And remember, our show is about family life, and it starts with the family. I tell you, when you do your small things as a family, it will spread, because remember, your children go to school and they interact with their peers, who will interact with their parents, who will then interact with the people they work with. So what you do at home is very, very important. And we want to end the show actually with a very positive message, and it's from a popular artist, international artist that many of you all will know about. His name is Ziggy Marley. I don't think I need to do any introductions to it. And the video will speak to what we've been talking about in song.
Yes.
And it speaks about family life. It speaks about God. It speaks about really
Joy. It's that joyful witness that you're talking about.
And bringing back harmony in the world. But to bring back harmony in the world and to bring back harmony in Trinidad and Tobago civilization means we need to bring back harmony in family life.
No, we have to do to simplify our lives.
Yeah.
We have to simplify our lives because there's no way, if we don't simplify our lives, we will find the time to do that.
That's right. Yeah, that's
just
right.
Simple little things, playing with your children on the grass, just relaxing.
There's actually a joke on Facebook that states they actually show you communication today. And they show you two best friends talking, but they're texting, right? And then they show you a couple going out on a date, and one is on the phone, and the other one is just writing. And they show you different scenarios, and it's so
how
true.
we communicating.
You know, instead of technology helping us today, it's separating.
creating a wedge.
That's right. And we have to pay attention that in order to keep your children quiet, do not give them the iPad, and do not give them the Kindle.
Yeah.
You need to sit, you need to make time to spend time with your children. And once you do that, your children would get the message that they are loved and that you care about them. And if mommy and daddy cares and God loves me, then I am now capable of going out in school, going out in the workplace, and eventually, as Camille showed you, when she got married, to spread that, because maybe her husband's family did not ever receive that. So it's not lost, and we're not hopeful.
True.
We're not hopeless. We're very hopeful, and we really, really think that this could work. And I think it's a beautiful theme to really work with.
It's a good start.
Yes,
It's a lovely, lovely
and
start.
again, as Natasha said, we want to thank you. We want to thank you for bringing your homes and your stories into our show, and for really being personal with us, because what you may think is a tragedy really helps somebody out there who's alone and who needs to hear that story and witness to say, you know what, I'm not alone here. There are others out there like me and who want to help me.
Yes.
And you know,
and if you want to tell us the story, get in touch with the Archdiocese and Family Life Commission.
That's right.
In the book, just call.
Their numbers have been appearing throughout the show.
So call.
And,
take your numbers down and call, and we'll come to you. Lorraine and I will come to you, and we'll take your story.
That's
and
right.
hear it.
Yeah. So always remember that we are here for you, right? And we want to make this as interactive as possible. It's not the Natasha and Lorraine show. We always laugh when we say that. You know, we're just here to bring out and really solidify the message and the priorities. And we hope we do a good job in terms of presenting these priorities in order and really teasing it out so that you out there could understand it and really work it into your families. And again, I feel as if it's redundant because I've been saying the word so often,
I think it's the witness of the
regeneration.
families
Yes.
we go to, that touches a lot of hearts.
Yeah.
You know, that's the comments I get, that the witness of the families we go to
Yeah.
really, really does touch hearts.
So again, if you have a good story and a wonderful story, please remember, share it with us. Call into the AFLC, that's the Archdiocese Family Life Commission. Tell them you have a story that you want your family to share. And always remember, God is good, and be a witness. Be a witness to God and try to imitate his life. Thank you once again.
Lift up your hearts with a smile. Lift up your feet with a dance. Lift up your spirits with a song. It's family time. It's family time. It's family time. Hi, how you doing? Hi, how you been? It's really good to know we still got this thing. When we get together, it's so much fun. Everyone's happy. Nobody's got to roll. Lift up your hearts with a smile. Lift up your feet with a dance. Lift up your spirits with a song. It's family time. It's family time. It's family time. Now the world gets busy, but it's not hard to see. Family means the most to me. I'm so happy we found this time. And we can all share what's on our minds. Lift up your hearts with a smile. Lift up your feet with a dance. Lift up your spirits with a song. It's family time. It's family time. It's family time. Now we get together. That's how we get along. Now we get the world to sing a peace song. Everyone can see we are family. Everyone can see it's time to be free. Lift up your hearts with a smile. Lift up your feet with a dance. Lift up your spirits with a song.